Hello, everyone. My name is Telash Jayoba, and I'm welcoming you to another episode of Community Issues and Concerns. This particular episode is brought to you by Community Concern and another organization called Ubuntu Multicultural, another organization, iVision for the Free Media, and a Nigerian community on T-side, which is popularly known as NICOT. Today, we will be talking about the COVID-19 vaccination, and the hesitancy of the Bame community to be vaccinated. Research carried out by Institute of Fiscal Studies, IFS, confirmed that the death rate due to coronavirus among the BAME population is more than twice that of the white population. This research is significant because the IFS has taken into account age, gender, and geography, and also found out that if you take two people of same age, gender, and living in the same locality, a Black Caribbean will be 1.7 times more likely to die than a white person. A Bangladeshi is 2 times more likely to die than a white person. A Pakistani is 3 times more likely to die than a white person. And a Black African is 3.5 times more likely to die than a white person. So, why is this? There is probably more than one reason for this. And some factors may be more important for different groups. Let's say, for example, a Black African is more likely to be employed as a frontline key worker. Some older Bangladeshi may be more vulnerable due to underlying health conditions. And some pre-existing health inequalities regarding the experiences some BAME communities have had when trying to access health care should be another factor. But reason why we are here today is about the vaccine. Now that we have the vaccine, we've been hoping for this quite a while now. Now we have it, and one of the major hurdles facing the coronavirus vaccine is getting people to take it. And that is one of the reasons we are here. What do we need to do to get people to understand why they should go and take this vaccine? And I know we have the issue of trust, which is especially, is very deep in our BAME community. Even though we are disproportionately hit harder by the pandemic. Then another issue why we think many people are not ready to go for the vaccine is the issue of mistrust of the government and the medical community. So these are the factors that are making a lot of people to be reluctant when it comes to taking this vaccine. But we decided to bring up this meeting tonight so that we think we need to inform our community on all of this issue of mistrust, probably different messages that have been flying around on our social media. And tonight we have put together a team of health professionals. And we have a community leader as well, who is also a lecturer. They will be talking to us and taking our questions on COVID-19 related issues and the social aspects. Before I introduce the team of medical experts in our midst, I would like to introduce to you the person that will be co-hosting with me today, who is Dr. Atino Imbikan. Dr. Atino.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program.
All right, and I have with us on the platform Mr. John Kabuye, who is the head of Ubuntu Multicultural. Mr. John Kabuye, are you with us?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. T. And as you clearly mentioned, yeah, I'm the head of Ubuntu Multicultural Center, which we have a vision to offer education, advice, support, advocacy for migrants, while remaining impartial and judgmental and non-directive. So that's why I'm hosting this with you. And like you said, we want to suggest to help for people to make right decisions on whether to go for a vaccination or not. That's what we are here for. Discuss, talk about it, and people make their own decisions. Thank you much.
All right, thank you, Mr. John. I have an amazed Dr. Adebola Adisa. Dr. Adebola Adisa, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
good evening.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
evening, everyone.
We should just do it this way. People have seen you. We'll still come back to you. You do a bit of 2 minutes introduction of yourself. So, but before then, let me quickly introduce Dr. Kayode Adeboye. Hello, Dr. Kayode Adeboye, sir. Hello, Dr. Kayode Adeboye.
Yes, good evening,
Are you with
everyone.
us? Oh,
Good evening.
Yes.
okay. That is Dr. Kayode Adeboye. And let me, then I would like to introduce to us as well, Dr. Tokunbo Shogowawa.
Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this program.
You're welcome, sir. So, like I've said, I know Mr. John Kabuye has done a bit of introduction of himself and the organization is representing on this platform. And is a community leader, is a lecturer, is the head of Ubuntu Multicultural. So let me quickly go to Dr. Adebola Adisa. Within 2 minutes or under 2 minutes, can you just quickly introduce yourself in details to the forum?
Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Adebola Adisa. I'm a GP in the northeast of England. I'm a speaker, author of 4 books, almost 5 now. I'm working on the 5th one. And I am the founder of Brave Arts Northeast, which is a community group which supports families, especially women and young people in the community. I'm really pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. I would like to move to Dr. Kayode Adeboye, a brief introduction of yourself today.
Right. I don't have much to say. I'm an emergency medicine consultant. I've been one of those who received COVID patients for the last 1 year. And thank God I'm still well. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. I would like to go to Dr. Tokunbo Shogowawa.
Hello, good evening once again. Yes, as I've said, I'm Tokunbo Shogowawa. I'm a public health consultant, and unlike Dr. Adeboye, who sees the patient, or Dr. Adisa, I am involved with managing around the prevention and all the community interventions. So issues around pushing for testing, or where we have a case, or with policies around that. So, and I'm currently involved with the surge testing that is going on in Stockton, where we have identified a South African variant. So that's all.
All right, thank you so much. Well, because of our time, we'll just go straight to the issue at hand. and that is COVID-19 vaccination. We all know about COVID-19. We don't have to give any introduction about COVID-19 anymore. It's been here for a while now, and we have learned so many things on how to cope with the situation of COVID-19. But this is something that we've been hoping for quite a while now, the vaccine. And the vaccine is here. But majority of our community members are decided not to go and take the vaccine. So we want to enlighten our people on why we should go and take this. I've had mine, I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I'm here, I'm still kicking. Nothing has gone wrong with me. So if I can't take it, I don't know why you cannot take it. It is for our own sake. All right. I wouldn't want to talk too much. I'm not in the position to do that. That's not my job today. My job is to bring the expert together and for them to enlighten us on the issue. All right. I would quickly like to start with Mr. John Kabuye. Mr. John Kabuye. Mr. John Kabuye is a community leader, is a lecturer, like I've said before. He works closely with the local council, and he has been supporting the local community with on different aspects. Mr. John, could you please give us a brief analysis of the social effects of COVID-19 on the Black community? One, and do you think the disproportionate death rate of the Black community is more as a result of underlying or medical issue than social issue? Then another one that I would like to put, because of time, I'm just trying to put all of this together. We know you've been working with some members of the council in moving a motion on some issue of concerns to the Black community. Could you please take us through all this?
Thank you, Mr. T. Those are 3 big questions. That would, to me, would need a full hour. But I'll go
5 minutes. We'll be happy.
Just briefly. Yes, I think it's true that people from ethnic minority were most likely, and actually they are so most likely to have COVID-19 disease. That's when it's true. From evidence from everywhere. And it's also true that they're more likely to have severe outcomes if at all they catch the COVID-19 disease. And it's also true that the lockdown measures have also disproportionately really affected our communities more than any other. And the evidence shows that. And where I get that evidence mainly, for me, I read books, but sometimes because I work in the community with the Ubuntu, we've worked with the community, we've seen raw data, we have experienced, we have seen people telling us, we have had people telling us, this is happening, this is how I feel. So we really, really know that it's really happening. So in a way, the suggestion that, or what I'm saying is that the evidence suggests that largely that is due to social inequalities. Of course, when you look at Gresham here, the housing is not the best. And you find that many Bame communities are concentrated there. You look at Nanth or Marton, okay, the housing is better, but of course, the data says that not quite very, very bad in those areas, but in the deprived areas, it is very, very bad. But we might be lucky that in Middlesbrough, the age, I mean, we are young. It's a young community. In a way, that's why people say, maybe it's not really, really very bad. But our community in Middlesbrough is quite young, and I think it's quite stronger to resist the disease. Probably that's why we are not really, really facing, we are not seeing many, many casualties. But social inequality is the thing. Of course, we have issues with employment. We are employed in we are always at the front line. That's what we do. And of course, working at the front line, it's got a historical connotation to it in a way that it starts way back with the Windrush generation. When they came here, they came to do work that white people didn't want to do, and the kind of work was kind of frontline. So it kind of came following everybody, all of us, and we are all doing the first line job. And because we are the first people to face the disease, we are the people that it catches first, so we tend to suffer more. There are lots of things I could mention social here, and we can talk about mental health issues, financial insecurity. The job we do, they don't pay too much money, so we tend to want to work all the time. You don't want to be off. Yeah, if you are off, how will you pay for your children to eat? So you all want to go and work all the time. So in the due course, of course, you catch it. So socially, I must say, yes, the social effects of COVID-19 on the Black community are very, very much higher, and it really affects us socially. So the second question you asked was disproportionately. Yes, the result, is it medical? Is it that social issues? To me, I would say this is not a question about chicken and egg, whether the chicken came first or the egg came first. To me, the social issues are the parents of the medical issues. That's my understanding, that's my analysis. When you look at racism in this country, racism is, we normally call it the epidemic of racism. So it's where all the issues start. When you're always feeling that somebody is going to say something bad to you, when you're always feeling that if you go and apply for a job, probably they won't give it to me because I speak a different language, or I look different from other people. So those stresses in your body, it makes you age a lot. It makes you easier to catch disease. It makes everything easier for anything to really put you down. So in a way, to me, if we sort out the social issues, the housing, the racism, some people call it the weathering. We are always weathering a lot of storm. So by doing that weathering thing, it's like we're putting a lot of stress on our heads, on our bodies, to an extent that diabetes can easily kill you, heart disease can easily kill you, everything can easily kill you because your body is so weak. So I would say that we need to really make sure that our social issues are catered for, and we even ourselves, we need to find ways of making our bodies easy. Like go for a walk, go and do some gym, don't work too much, come on. Yeah, there's always another day to make money. So there are things we need to do ourselves, but again, there are things that the government or the council need to do to make sure that we don't die of such issues, never mind medical issues. Now, you also mentioned about what I've been doing with the council. It's true, myself and different organizations like Black Community Association, like Bame, like Marsha, Susan, and to mention but a few, we've tried to engage with politicians, personally being a politician, having a background of politician, because I know that sometimes we need to lobby the people in power. It's true that in Middlesbrough, very few Bame people are in the council. Never mind, no Black person is in the council, but at least we've got some contact, we've got some connection. So we've tried to lobby the council by way of writing a motion. Although that's the language of the council. You have to lobby through motions, through discussions. So we've tried to write a motion to ask for the council to support our Black communities in Middlesbrough through things like supporting businesses, because we need to know how many Black businesses are in Middlesbrough, how many Black organizations are in Middlesbrough. Why is that there's no Black business or Black organization in Middlesbrough? We need to know all the facts such that we sort out the social issue. All what we want to see is the social issue is sorted out. And we can only do that through lobbying, through action in the political streams. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm also working with the council, because some part of this has been sponsored by Middlesbrough Council. They gave us some money to see that we can disseminate information to our Black communities. There's a lot that needs to come down to our community, but sometimes if there's no somebody in between there to link the council and the community, things get lost there. So my job now at the moment is to see that probably we are the link. We can bring the information, we can disseminate, we can tell the council that our people need this is what is required. And I'm sure with what has been happening, they are able to listen, but we need to work harder. We need to talk more. We need to shout more for them to listen, but they are starting to listen. So briefly, that's what I can say, what I've been doing. And thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Mr. John Kabuye. Thank you so much. Before we continue, if you noticed earlier, I made mention of an association, Nigerian Community on Teesside. I don't know, I'm not sure if the president of the community, NICOT, is here. Mrs. Seramba, is she here? She's not. Anytime she's with us, I would still like to introduce her to us. All right, to Dr. Ati.
Hello.
All right.
Okay, let me go to Dr. Adisa. As the country mourns more than 100 deaths, how do you make sense of this moment with the vaccine milestone? That is one. It will also shock you that some of us don't really know what a vaccine is, you know? So if you can also please explain to us what a vaccine is, that will be nice. Why do we need the vaccine? Why don't we opt for other things like taking preventive measures, like wearing a face mask, distancing ourselves? There's also this claim that if you continue to take vitamin D regularly, you won't even contract the virus at all. So if we can get on vitamin D, why do we really need the vaccine?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ati. Well, that's quite a few questions rolled into one now, so I'll try to go through each of them as quickly as I can because of time. So yes, as of yesterday, the number of people who have died so far in this COVID-19 pandemic in the UK is about 110,000. And I know, you know, it feels like a very huge number, especially given all that we've been hearing about the vaccines. You know, the vaccine is like the miracle, it's the thing we have to all get and all that. So I guess the question I would rephrase it as, is the vaccine actually working? You know, is it effective in the first instance? And I think I would have to say, based on the current data, you know, from the government, it does appear to be working, because if we look at the data on the government website, so far almost 20 million people have been vaccinated with their first dose, and about 1 million people have had the 2 doses out of, you know, the total population of 60 million in the UK. So about 1/3 of people have been vaccinated with at least the first dose, but not so many with the second, with the 2 doses. And as we know, based on percentages, you know, the more vaccine, if you take the 2 doses, you have a higher chance of it working as effectively as it's meant to. And the other reason why I think, based on the data, the vaccine does appear to be working is, if we remember, we were told that there was a surge in cases, daily cases around Christmas time and in the early part of this this year, first 2 weeks of the year. And that surge is actually going down. In fact, based on the data again, the current number of new cases, daily new cases, is at the lowest it's been since October 2020. So compared to October 2020, the figures appear to be much lower in terms of new daily cases. So I would say that it does appear that the vaccine is working, but as we know, these things take time. So it might not appear to be working quickly enough, but the data suggests that it is working. So I think that is really good news. And you saying that vaccines, we don't even know what vaccines are, it will surprise you. I mean, I know what vaccines are. Yes, that's my, it's part of medicine, knowing about vaccines. But what I've learned about vaccines in the last sort of few months is more than I've ever known, because it's something we all need to be aware of, and that's quite important. So a vaccine basically is a substance that stimulates the production of something called antibodies, which then provide immunity against an infectious disease. So vaccines are mainly substances that are meant to help a body develop sort of protection against infectious diseases. So in simple terms, if somebody is when a person is vaccinated, their natural immune system recognizes that vaccine as a foreign thing, as an illness, as an, so for instance, let's take COVID-19, for instance. When you're vaccinated, your body thinks you're getting the COVID-19 infection. And then if your body is strong enough, there's nothing wrong with your immune system, it develops an attack, so to say, tries to destroy that supposed COVID-19. So the vaccine itself is not COVID-19 infection, but your body sees it as COVID-19 infection, tries to destroy it, but that's not all it does. It remembers that your body has been exposed to that supposed COVID-19 infection. And then if you were ever exposed to the real COVID-19 infection, it is meant to remember and be able to attack it. Remember, it's built up so much more in immunity. So it's meant to be able to attack it in such a way that even if you fell ill, you shouldn't be very, very ill. You shouldn't end up in ICU. And that's the main concept around which COVID-19 vaccine is developed. Although there's some data, well, it's ongoing, look and research to see if it would actually prevent the infection. But at the moment, we know that if somebody then ends up developing COVID-19 infection, they shouldn't be most people will not be sick enough to require ICU admission, which is a big thing, because there are never going to be enough ICU beds, to take care of everyone. So that's the thing mainly about vaccine, and they are safe because vaccines have been developed since the late 18th century, many years ago, when it was first developed by someone called Edward Jenner, and it has been seen to historically be safe. In fact, vaccines have enabled, infectious diseases like smallpox, which was like a big deal in those days, to be eradicated. Not only that, so infections like measles, tetanus, which are really serious infections, it has limited how severe it can be, such that in populations that are completely vaccinated, you won't find those infections. And that's what, we're hoping that COVID-19 would eventually be able to do. What was the other question? I don't want to go into types of vaccines because it will just be too scientific, but basically most vaccines work in that way. I think he also asked about why do we need vaccines? Basically, we said it because, they're important. Otherwise, the world would probably have been eradicated by some infectious diseases by now. So, I mean, I don't think there's any two ways about it. Vaccines are really vital, and it has really helped us human beings to survive some really, really serious infections. I think the other question was that, why do we need to still be vaccinated? After all, we were keeping safe distances, socially distancing ourselves. Some people have not even left their houses since March last year. We're using masks, face masks, we're washing our hands. Why do we still need to be vaccinated? And that is a very valid question. I have, it is true, it's logical to ask that question. But we must remember that those preventive measures do something, and they are preventative. They are meant to prevent you from getting the infection in the first instance. Mm-hmm. But there's no way they can be 100%, because, for instance, some people, there are some anti-maskers. They've decided that they will not wear masks, or decided that it's not true, COVID-19 is not even true, so they're not going to wear masks. Some people are never going to be able to socially distance, not because they can't do it, but they've got people to care for, their carers, their things like that. Some people are never going to be able to wear masks. For instance, children cannot wear masks, yet they can spread the infection if they get it. We know of newer strains like, Dr. Shogorawa was saying, this, South African variant, Brazilian variant. These are really strong infections that, some people have even proposed that spread through other means, in quote. So, taking vaccine is going to be an additional, in fact, what vaccines, so in case, somebody does get infected, despite all this, let's assume a world in which everybody is, is doing what they should. In case that still slips through the net, then vaccine is going to protect the person, hopefully, based on imagined data, to prevent people from even developing the infection, even if they were exposed to it, or if they do get the infection, they don't become really sick and end up in hospital or in ICU. So yes, again, we must remember that vaccines have short-lived effects. So all these things, at the moment, we think that the COVID-19 vaccine has short-lived effect. So we cannot do one or the other. We must continue doing all these things together. Get the vaccine, and then continue the preventative measures. I think the last question, I'll try and go through that as well, is the vitamin D claim. That by consuming vitamin D, you can protect your immune system and may not even, be infected by COVID-19 virus. The long short of it is, I would just summarize by saying that it hasn't been proven, as of the last time I checked, it hasn't been proven that it is completely true that, vitamin D, is protective against COVID-19, or if your immunity, your levels are low of vitamin D, that it gives you a higher risk. There is still ongoing data, but we must know that based on ongoing research, vitamin D does have, scientists kind of think that vitamin D has a role in boosting immunity. So all along we've felt that vitamin D was involved in, calcium, which develops strong bones and teeth and things. But now there's, some emerging data, so to say, that maybe it does also help in, immune system. So it is quite possible, but even if this were true, it cannot be the only factor. Like Dr. Mr. Kabuye said, these things are multifactorial. There are many other reasons why people are more susceptible to, COVID-19 infection, including things like higher age groups, underlying medical conditions like kidney conditions, hypertension, diabetes, heart conditions, people with immunosuppression, whose immunity is low already, exposure risk, frontline jobs, deprivation, social, economic. That appears to be the main issue. So it's not an isolated factor. So we cannot decide that, if I take enough vitamin D and boost, my immune system, then I'm fully protected from COVID-19. Everything must come together. All these things we're saying, the preventive measures, mask, social distancing, keeping ourselves safe, taking the vaccine. If we want to, take vitamin D, that is always a good thing to do, because in the United Kingdom, sunlight is not, you don't get, especially Black people, your body cannot absorb enough vitamin D via the sunlight, because there's not even enough sunlight. And then our Black skin reduces the chance for us to absorb enough of vitamin D anyway. So there's nothing wrong in taking vitamin D. In fact, the government, so to say, approved that. But we must do all these things together. Like the analogy, in closing, concluding what, all the questions, somebody has used the analogy of, like, when it's deep winter, it's snowing outside, and you're meant to go to the shops to, to buy a pint of milk because you've run out of milk. You don't go outside with a t-shirt or your underwear. You go outside, you wear your clothes, if you like, wear for clothing, wear a hat, wear a scarf, wear your jacket and your gloves, your boots, your socks. You wear everything together. All those things are important, and none of them should be done in isolation. They should all be done together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Adebola Adisa. Before we go on, like I've said before, I would quickly like to introduce to us the president of the Nigerian Community on Teesside, which is popularly known as NICOT, the person of Mrs. Sarah Mbama. Mrs. Mbama, all right. Would you like to just say one or two things?
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Sorry that we're late. We had some problems with our technology trying to get logged in. I think I'm really pleased that we're having this evening, actually. I think it's really important, very, very important that we all be vaccinated, yeah? We have to do everything that we can to try and combat COVID, which is a terrible, terrible disease which has come upon us. So please, these discussions are really important. Let us just carry on with them. Thank you to everybody who's attending, and thank you to everybody who's speaking today. We really appreciate you. And I'll let you carry on now in the middle.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Okay, I will like to turn around to Dr. Adeboye. Dr. Adeboye, are you here with us, sir?
He's here.
Hello, Dr. Adeboye.
Is it possible to share a 5-minute clip?
Okay. Oh, before asking you the question, is that all right? Okay. All right. So let me just make co-hosts. Okay, I think you can share now. Okay.
Okay.
Previous records, going from development to approval in a matter of months. That speed was driven by billions of dollars and a global effort. But in some cases, it was also because of a breakthrough in vaccine technology decades in the making, something that could shrink this timeline going forward and change how we make vaccines altogether. Vaccines teach your immune system how to respond to a threat, and traditionally there have been 4 ways to do this. The 2 most common types of vaccines work by exposing you to a weakened or dead version of a virus or bacteria. The weakened virus won't make you sick, but it will teach your body how to fight the real thing if you're exposed to it later on. This is how the measles and annual flu vaccines work. Another less common type of vaccine does a similar thing, but uses an inert version of a toxin instead of a virus. The most well-known version of this is probably the tetanus shot. This 4th type of vaccine works a little differently, because it only uses a small part of the virus instead of the whole thing. Common examples of this would be the hepatitis B vaccine or the HPV vaccine. Some of the new COVID-19 vaccines also rely on these traditional methods. For example, one COVID-19 vaccine currently in trials uses this 4th method. It only uses one part of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, known as the spike protein. That spike protein is what allows the coronavirus to enter your cells. When injected into your body on its own, it's harmless. But your body will still recognize it as a foreign threat and launch an immune response to fight it off, which is enough to teach your body how to fight the whole virus. But isolating and preparing that spike protein for a vaccine is a process. Researchers first have to modify it, then multiply it a lot, and then assemble the vaccine itself in a lab. In fact, one thing that all 4 of these types of vaccines have in common is that they all require growing and transporting large amounts of live pathogens in a lab. And that takes a lot of time. A vaccine goes through many steps before it can be approved. But before anything else, it has to be developed. And working with live pathogens makes that process a lot longer. On average, it takes 5 to 10 years for a vaccine to reach FDA approval in the United States. Most COVID-19 vaccines have gotten through this process a lot faster by overlapping the different phases of human trials and starting the manufacturing early. But some vaccines have also found a groundbreaking way to speed up this first section by shifting some of the work out of the lab and into your body. Nearly every function in the human body is carried out by proteins, so our cells are constantly manufacturing them. To do that, they make a single-stranded copy of DNA. That copy is called messenger RNA, or mRNA. Each strand of mRNA holds the information on how to make one type of protein. The cell reads the mRNA, follows the instructions, and makes a protein. And that's where these 2 new types of vaccines come in. They contain instructions. Researchers who developed these new types of vaccines, called mRNA vaccines, started with the genetic sequence of the virus. They also decided to focus on the spike protein we talked about earlier. But instead of assembling and purifying that protein in a lab, they identified the part of the genetic sequence that creates it, and then took a much faster route by synthesizing mRNA and using that as the vaccine, which saved months of time and money. Once inside the body, the cell reads the mRNA and begins to make harmless spike proteins of its own. From there, your body's immune system recognizes the foreign threat and sounds the alarm. This is how the new COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer and BioNTech and Moderna work. But the main drawback with an mRNA vaccine is that mRNA breaks down very easily. It has to be delivered inside a protective fatty barrier and kept ultra cold, which isn't super ideal for a vaccine that needs to reach all areas of the globe. Another effective new-to-consumer kind of vaccine works similarly, but uses DNA instead of mRNA, which is much more stable. The COVID-19 vaccines from AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson are this type. It doesn't require the ultra-cold conditions, but it does have its own drawbacks. To get the DNA into your cells, researchers use a harmless virus as a carrier. But over time, your body will build resistance to that virus, which means future doses using this carrier will become less and less effective, and the carrier will need to be updated. But in terms of efficacy, cost, and speed, these 2 new types of vaccines have broken records. These new vaccines are a groundbreaking way to elicit an immune response. And while they'll have a big impact on how we fight COVID-19, their real impact is just beginning. A vaccine that delivers specific instructions to your body opens up a whole new world of vaccine technologies and disease treatments for things like cancer or HIV. Finding the vaccine was a turning point for the pandemic. But the pandemic might also be a turning point for vaccines.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Right, what do I do? Stop share.
Okay, stop sharing. Yes, exactly. So that is exactly what I'm even about to even ask you, because one of the issues that we found that is making a lot of people to be reluctant about the vaccine is because we have different types of vaccine. Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna. Most people are confused. They are not sure of which is which or which one is even they are even supposed to go for. So could you please enlighten us more on this issue?
Right, that's the reason why I showed that clip, so that it can explain to some extent how vaccines are made. So broadly speaking, vaccines are made by introducing into your body something similar to the organism it's going to fight. So it's done in various ways. So it's either it's a completely dead part of the virus or organism, but which is still able to stimulate your own immune system to develop antibodies. Sometimes it is what is called attenuated. So it is not completely dead, but it's reduced in so much power that it cannot cause disease in you. But when it's introduced into the body, it will also stimulate your own immune system to develop antibodies. And like my sister was saying earlier, we also develop what are called memory cells when you've been exposed to an infection, so that the second time you're exposed to it, your body reacts a lot quicker and in a more powerful way to attack whatever it is that is trying to cause the problem. It's also the same reason why you get boosters. That is, you get first shot, second shot, third shot. For example, MMR, tetanus, any of these other injections you've had as children. That's why you get boosters, because each time you get a booster, your immune system becomes strengthened. And so when you get exposed to the specific organism causing the disease, it reacts a lot quicker and more powerfully. So it does not cause a lot of problem for you. So that brings us to COVID vaccine. Now, the Moderna and the Pfizer have been developed by the mRNA technique, whereas the AstraZeneca is more attenuated, that is reduced strength, reduced virulence type. So there have been some hesitation regarding the Pfizer, Moderna, because people have said, oh no, it's going to alter my DNA, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. As far as we know, that is not true, and I'll explain. So that clip you saw showed that on the COVID virus, there are certain spikes on the surface. That's what it uses to attach to the cells in your breathing system, and then gets entrance into the lungs and any other tissue it attaches to. And that is where it starts to cause problem. So what they have done with the mRNA vaccine is to take the part of what is called the nucleus, that codes, every cell codes for proteins. So they've taken a small bit from the nucleus that codes specifically for the spike protein. And that is what has now been introduced and made into the vaccine. So not the old organism. So the part that codes for the spike protein has now been made into a vaccine. It's taken a lot of effort to do that. If you remember the clip, you need to multiply it several times and several times. And if you also remember something important in the clip, is that mRNA is quite unstable. That is why it requires to be frozen to almost minus 80 degrees. Otherwise, it breaks down and that's it, it's destroyed, it's gone. So that is what's been made into the vaccine. So when that is defrosted and introduced into your body recognizes it as something foreign and develops antibodies against it. So when you do get exposed to the COVID virus itself, your body has already been exposed to a small bit of it and hence has developed antibodies so that when the proper COVID virus comes, your body pushes out antibodies against it and destroys most of it. So that even if you do get exposed, then you're most likely not to become as ill, less likely to require Moderna, and all those things. So that explains the Pfizer and Moderna type. The other type that is going on, like, is what is called the attenuated, which is doesn't directly deal with what is it called, the nucleus, so to say. Again, it's still going to walk through proteins. So that is what is still going to happen. But it also will be introduced as the vaccine, and it would also again stimulate your body to produce antibodies against the virus. So that's essentially how they work. So it's a myth that the mRNA which is in the Pfizer and Moderna are suddenly going to alter your DNA. You're suddenly going to become a monkey in a few months' time or whatever. It's at the end of that process, the mRNA that's been introduced through the vaccine just breaks down. The body gets rid of it, and that is it. So.
All right. Thank you, sir. Dr. Ati.
Right. We still have another question. Sorry. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. This question goes to Dr. Sangoa. Some people feel that these vaccines have actually been rushed because they believe that vaccines take time to develop. So the question is, what are the safety measures or safety checks or phases that the vaccine has to go through before it can be authorized?
Right. Thank you. I'll try and avoid repetitions, and I know time is going. I'll just like to share maybe a couple of slides. I mean, there's so much information out there, and there's been so many presentations around COVID vaccination and all that, so that's made my job easier. And so the slides that my colleagues have been putting together, and I think it's on this, it's on the seminar today. So I'm going to steal from his slides, and that's from Professor Edward Kununga, who is my brother from Zimbabwe, and a colleague also. He's a consultant in public health. So if I have permission to share.
Yes.
Okay.
I share now.
Okay. Fortunately,
yeah, it's on.
It's on now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, okay, that's I have quite a number. I'll just flip through so that I don't repeat. That's part of the things we're talking about. That the first one here, this is where you have the disease, then you end up, develop, either you recover, you die, or you get disability, or you develop your immune memory. So now that's if you get the disease, so like COVID, you get that, but the antigen and the vaccine gives you that process. You have the immune response and you have immune memory. In terms of the stages of I won't go into what the vaccines are. Now, the race for vaccine, if I can get that, yes. That is why it's accelerated. That instead of taking the normal, and I think some of it had been shown in the video clip that Dr. Adeboye shared with us, and we go through all the different phases that we have put that on. Yeah, so we have the preclinical, which was in the clip about the development, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Then distribution and manufacturing and approval, which the top bit of this slide actually goes through years. But with the COVID vaccine, it's actually been accelerated. And all the phases have actually been done. And it's because we have a lot of stakeholders who have been involved with that. And then the funding and looking for volunteers for their research, which normally takes years. We had a readily available population to go through that. What is now key is the phase 4, which is the post-marketing monitoring of the effect of the vaccine, which is another way of displaying that. So all the different phases which a normal vaccine development goes through, which will have been by 2036, if you take this one, for example, has been done here within 1 year, but none of the phases has been skipped. And I think that's the main question, to say none of the phases has been skipped. So, I mean, this is another way of looking at, the development. It's been developed mRNA vaccine, the method for years. And then because the genetic information was made available very quickly, like I said, no steps were skipped. Money and resources were available. The messenger RNA, which Dr. Adeboye described, the method, which is for the Pfizer, mostly for Pfizer and the Moderna, faster approach to vaccine production. I talked about recruitment of participants, which was very quick, and nature of the disease, widespread. So actually, not long to see if the vaccine worked for the volunteers. And of course, a lot of companies began making the vaccines, and also got to recognize that there was an assurance that the market was there. Government had ordered even before the vaccines arrived. I mean, that's just a bit of some of the bits, and that's me taking it. I'm just trying to, if I can close this one. And just to show the benefits of the vaccine. This is from Israel, which is very stark, where we then had, and that is cases was going up, and when they got vaccines, a fall, both in the under 60, 40 to 59, and over 60. A fall in hospital admissions, severe hospitalization, a fall. After the first, going up by the second there. Now, if you come back to England, this is number of deaths of people who had a positive test result for COVID-19 in England. If you look at it, top over 80, that was end of January, February. Look at how it has dropped. Greatest benefit. So really, we are seeing, Dr. As I said, I mean, it takes some time, but we have some immediate that we can actually see a big drop, and that in terms of even the number of infections, we're seeing the number of deaths, we're seeing lowest, even lower than the pre-release. That's why the government can feel that confident now about developing a roadmap to recovery. And this is like, and not everybody's been vaccinated yet. By the time we have everybody vaccinated, we would hopefully be seeing all the results. That's death rates falling more quickly in the over 80s. So really, I would just stop there, and hopefully that would generate questions. I don't want to spend time on presentations because, and once again, I recognize my colleagues and my brother from Zimbabwe, because most of those slides were stolen from him, apart from my picture when I got my vaccination. And then hopefully my glasses will be bigger, as bigger to her desires. She knows I'm talking to her. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. We have learned a lot from that. Because of time, this is the time for us to be taking questions from the participants. So if there's anyone who would like to ask a question and for our medical expert to shed light onto it, I think some people are putting questions in the chat now.
And I could say something.
If anybody wants to speak out, it's okay. If you want to, if you don't want to show your face, it's all right. But
I think this is an important topic, and I don't think we should run away quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We got a question by Olu Ogunbi. He said, "Hi, if I have already tested positive of COVID-19, would you suggest that I choose the protein vaccine over the other type? Thanks." That's a question. Let me quickly check the other one by Trudy if the questions are related. What are the contents of this substance and what is the definition of vaccine? Okay. Dr. Adeboye, I don't know if you will quickly like to, I know Dr. Adisa has made mention of, she has given us the definition of vaccine, but I think somebody wasn't around then. So if you could just quickly go around that and go over to the other question that says, if I have already tested positive of COVID-19, would you suggest I choose the protein vaccine over the other type?
Right. I'm glad for that state comments because it already says to me, you are planning to take the vaccine. So the question is really, which one should I take? That's my assumption. Okay. Now, which means you understand that testing positive does not actually provide very long immunity. So there is a risk with, yes, you've tested positive, but it's best to boost your immunity by getting properly vaccinated. So that's what I'll say. The other part is whether it should be Pfizer, Moderna, or whether it should be Johnson, Janssen. It's a different thing. One, you may not have that option because it depends on what GP is offering. It depends on what your surgery is offering. You're not going to have that option of whether it is this, it is that. In this country, what is mostly available is the Pfizer vaccine. That is what I had, okay? And the people at the moment who are given a different type of vaccine, at least what I know of T-side is mostly Pfizer. People who are being offered something different, there has to be a specific reason why they cannot receive the Pfizer vaccine. So severe allergies, some other reasons why they cannot be offered the Pfizer vaccine. So it's a little bit of a mute question because you can only be, except you move out of T-side, you can only receive what has been procured in T-side for people who live in T-side. Is there any advantage of one over the other, which is actually the question you're asking me for? No, both have been proven to produce very good immune levels. Is there any risk with the mRNA? No, I have had the mRNA. It doesn't change your DNA, it doesn't change your protein, it doesn't affect your fertility, it does not do any of those things people are speculative of. And yes, and if I may just add, there was also a question on the content. Somebody in Nigeria asked me exactly the same thing and sent me a long list of, it contains dead fetus, it contains embalming fluid, it contains this, it's all crazy, completely crazy. It's got some salt water, it's got some glycol, it's got a few things that helps to protect. If you remember the mRNA, is so unstable, it has to be put in a little bag of glycol, protein to make sure that it remains stable. There is no substance that you either is a vaccine or you eat or whatever that is not contained in what is called a vehicle. Go and take any packet of paracetamol. It will tell you it's got a little bit of sucrose, it's got a little bit of starch. It's all those things put together that makes the old tablet. They are often inert and they're not going to cause any problem. They just help the active substance to get into you and be properly absorbed.
Okay, have you finished, sir?
Yes, I still have some other comments, but I'll wait for other people to.
Okay, all right.
Could I just share this? I have a slide that just shows the content from my, if you don't mind, just a pictorial.
Okay, all right.
If I can get it. Can we see that what's in a vaccine?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's, water, main ingredients, preservatives and stabilizers, which is the bit that Dr. Adebo said in terms of, those that's not stable. The active ingredients are those, the different bits that was described in the script, and Dr. Adebo had explained further. So really, that is a kind of a pictorial bit of what's in a vaccine. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any question, John?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a few questions here. I think, for example, is there any chance of building the immune system without a vaccine? Do you think it can happen so that people can build their immune system without without having a vaccine? And another question is, if things go wrong in future, of course, you've told us that the steps were followed, everything looks okay, but of course, with hindsight, if things go wrong in future, what can we do? What are the safeguards that have been put there? And maybe final question, it's something to do with the hesitance. Why do you think there is that hesitance in Black community to have that vaccine? Because sometimes I feel we need to know what the reasons why, so that we can counter those reasons why people are not happy to go and take a vaccine.
Okay. I don't know if Dr. Adebola Adisa, or I don't know who would like to take this.
I think the people sharing this should actually say why they are hesitant. If people are hesitant, it will help us to say, why are you hesitant? I have a few responses to that, and I'm sure Dr. Adisa has, but it's actually very good if people will voice their concerns, and then we can talk around those concerns.
Yeah, so please, the participants on this platform, please, you can unmute and ask the question that you will want our medical experts to shed more light on.
Okay, while waiting for that, maybe in response to John Kabue's bit about the vaccine, if something go wrong, the vaccine, it's gone through, like I said, it went through all the stages, and that's the stages that all other vaccines have gone through. We have a long record of vaccine development and vaccination has actually been a big breakthrough in a lot of disease management, communicable diseases. When Dr. Adebo and Dr. Adisa were talking, they talked about the different types, from all our childhood immunizations, from birth, from BCG that we get against tuberculosis, through all the 3 MMR, polio, and all those bits, hepatitis, flu, and we have that. So there is a long history of that. And if the new vaccine, COVID, has gone through those phases, then there is no, there is no concern that this will be anything different. And that's why there's a phase 4 post-marketing, where there's a yellow card system that monitors the effects or side effects based on what is reported and fed back. And that is updated regularly. If you remember when Dr. Adeboye was talking about, okay, if you have allergy against something, maybe you may not have Pfizer or whatever. Those are the kind of things that have been picked up either through research or through the performance of vaccines in the past. So there is a system in place to protect. If you remember when they started, I think it was the Oxford one, that one of the participants, research participants, reacted badly to it, that had to be hospitalized. Remember, it was suspended and was investigated before they started again. So if that is one of the reasons, that can say, okay, that's some degree of assurance. Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir. There is a question here from Olu Ogunbiyi. It's a bit funny anyway, because I said, now, if I can wait to get one shot, the first shot, I don't like needles. You are just like me. But if somebody like me, who doesn't like the sight of needles, not talk of allowing it to get into to touch my skin. If somebody like me can take it, so definitely I know that you can, because yeah, it took us up to 5 to 10 minutes before the needle can be injected, before the vaccine can be, before I can take it. But if I can do that, definitely you can be there as well. So I don't think there should be any problem. Just you know, be the man that you are, you know, and go for it. So somebody, there is another question here from Shadi. She said, once we take the vaccine, is it okay to mix freely, or should we still do social distancing? Maybe I should just go to Dr. Adebola Adisa. She's a GP, and you have worked with so many families. So what do you, how do you advise us on this?
Thank you very much, sir. Before I answer, I would like to just commend you on taking the vaccine, because part of the hesitancy is that, you know, there's so much misinformation, and a lot of people believe in their community leaders, which you're one of. And you, by taking the vaccine, you know, that can cut off so much hesitancy, because you've taken it. You know, that's why people are putting pictures on you know, I put my own photos on social media that I have taken it, I'm fine. We should all take this. So this is quite important. But in terms of mixing freely, or should we still do social distancing, this is very, very important. If we remember that analogy I gave, you can't say, you know, because you know, you're going out in the very cold snow, you can't decide to just put on your shoes and just go. Oh, I have my boots on and socks on, I don't need a coat. Everything must work together. You know, social distancing, mask, hand washing, shielding if we need to be shielding. All those things are so important in trying to prevent, you know, the COVID-19 infection in the first place, spreading from one person to the other, or, you know, between ourselves. And the vaccine is doing a different thing, is trying to reduce if we were still exposed to that infection by any means, it tries to reduce how bad that infection is going to be. So they're kind of doing two different things, so to say, but it comes together. So all these things are so important. Everything must work together. So no, we can't stop, you know, for now, until, you know, the world is declared COVID-19 free. You know, we've got to keep doing what we can.
Could I just ask just one statement to that, that the COVID vaccination itself on its own does not prevent you totally from getting COVID. And that is the fear we're having now, at least with population and communities. People think once they have the vaccine, then they are free to go to do anything. No. What we have shown is it reduces the effect either on hospitalization, the severity, and mortality.
Okay.
But there's no guarantee that you can still not catch it, or there's no evidence that it stops you from transferring to others.
Even before the introduction of vaccine, we know that a lot of people have caught COVID-19 before the introduction of vaccine, and nothing has happened to them. So, and with the introduction of vaccine as well. So are you saying that we can still not be free? We can't go back to our normal lifestyles even after the vaccine, even if we contract the virus again?
Yes, if I get your question right, what you're saying is you may have the vaccine, then the community, we don't have the herd immunity. That is the immunity as a community. Herd is group of cows and also as a community until we attain that level of almost 95%.
That is
so we still have people who may be carrying the virus and they will not have symptoms. So we have some, and that's why some of us who've been done the testing, we have the asymptomatic, people who don't have symptoms, and those who have symptoms. For example, so they now go to different testing sites so they don't mix. So people will be walking normally and may have the virus but not have symptoms, and they will be transmitting it.
I actually have herd immunity written down here, because there's herd immunity locally and herd immunity internationally. Okay, so as Uncle Tokes has said, you need up to 80–90% of the community you live in to have been covered by vaccine or to be protected to reduce significantly the level of transmission. Now, that is great if the uptake in the UK covers that. But then what happens when you travel abroad? There's no country that is now isolated completely that do not have COVID. So you're not going to suddenly get on a plane and head for Nigeria, where nobody has been given any vaccine. The first person received some yesterday. So if you travel to Nigeria, if you go on the assumption that I've been immunized and you go into a community that is still transmitting heavily, you're just unduly exposing yourself. So we need to get the vaccine. We need to encourage our community to get the vaccine. That's the only way we are going to achieve herd immunity. Otherwise, it's a waste of time if 50–60% of us are vaccinated and the other 40–50% are not. It still means we'll still be passing it around amongst ourselves. So we need to encourage people. People need to get the vaccine, not only to protect themselves as individuals, but to protect their own community.
Okay, somebody is asking a question. That this is from Kajetan. He said, sorry if I missed this at the beginning. What is the uptake in the BAME community on T side? And are we seeing the benefits yet? And then Dio says, what are your thoughts about vaccine passports? Another person asked the question, sorry, just 1 second, I can't remember the person's name. It's Barrister Chudi. He said, why did they ask for indemnity?
I think I can go to Dr. Shagoawa.
Right. Okay, thoughts on vaccine passports? As you know, the government is thinking about it, and it's just related to what Dr. Adeboye just said. We are part of a global community. if we are clean here, I mean, when we have air control, what about travels? That is why the government now has, is it how many countries now? 32, where when they come in, they have to isolate in hotels. That is why we're doing the South African variant, whether related to travel or not, the Brazilian, the Portuguese. So they are looking at that. And as usual in Britain, people are talking about rights. Vaccine passport is something that may come in, maybe because I'm public health, I will support it because we already have vaccine passport in the past for yellow fever, smallpox, cholera, because these are things that are going across boundaries. And where it has been, when it has been eradicated, they started going off. And I'm sure those of us from Africa will know that some of it is still being asked for. Which one was asked for me? Yellow fever when I went to Abidjan, Ivory Coast, February, just before the lockdown. I had to go and get. So we have the yellow, what's called the yellow certificate. And it might be something that may come up, but they're still looking at that. But my thought as public health physician will support that if we do not manage global vaccination, that is vaccination across all countries. And that's why the the program, program that is supplying vaccines in Africa, I think Nigeria and Ghana are the first two to get it from that. Zimbabwe has received from different donors, and that's happening because we cannot exist in isolation. Uptake in the Bame community, we've just started collecting local data through the NHS England, and that will be, we can then have that on T-side very shortly. I think we even had my colleagues in Middlesbrough had that, but I don't have the one for Stockton yet, but that will be coming up soon. It's a new variable that was introduced in part of the data collection from the vaccination. One thing we've got to recognize, at times when we make all this noise, we might be shooting ourselves in the foot. We saw a lot of morbidity, mortality in the Bame community. We have pictures of people who had died working on frontline. But when it came to research, when I say we, I'm not trying to point fingers, we were encouraging our communities not to take part in research because of all the myths. And yet, from my experience, we suffered more. So occasionally, we've got to look at this and balance it. Now it's there, we have the opportunity, it's available free of charge for us in this country. We still have to be pushing and trying to raise the, to raise people's expectations, or at least raise the profile so that we can, actually take this opportunity and seize it. Our fellow countrymen in the other parts of the country, even at home where we come from, don't have enough. You cannot even trust the cold chain. That is why the Pfizer vaccine is a no-brainer in most of our developing countries because we don't have those facilities. Even in this country, it's only the hospitals, and that even influenced the prioritization of people getting because of the storage, and they were not allowed to go into practices. So that's my bit about that in terms of uptake. It's perceived to be low. It's perceived to be low even in healthcare. Our colleagues who are working on the front line, some trusts are beginning to look at whether it will make it compulsory as part of some of the vaccines that is required to protect both the individual and the patient. And the question about indemnity, I'm not really very clear. Who's asking for indemnity? Is it the
Barrister
vaccine?
Chibi.
Pardon?
I think that was something went wrong. You've answered that question before.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
If I could just add to that, are there good reasons why we should mistrust? Yes, there are. Okay, if we go back in history, what's were done to Black and ethnic communities. Yes, in the US, the syphilis experiment done amongst Black people. Even in the UK, well, they exposed, that wasn't just Black people, these were white people were exposed to nuclear weapons. So countries have misbehaved in past. Pharmaceutical companies, I can't remember which one specifically, went to the northern Nigeria pretending they were giving polio vaccine.
Pfizer.
It's Pfizer.
It was Pfizer. And they gave people crazy things that caused paralysis, and some people caused death. Shell has mismanaged a lot of our waterways, a lot of fishing in the Delta. So countries and nationalities and big companies have done atrocious things in the Black community, supported by our government, just a few dollars here and there, and they take their eyes away from people being killed in their communities. So there are lots of reasons. And then in the UK, you say when it comes to good things, we're the last on the queue. So how come suddenly we're the first being offered a vaccine? But I want to reassure people that I've just seen thalidomide there. Thalidomide is actually, it wasn't confined to just the Black community. It went across, it was pregnant women specifically, US, UK, whatever. More in the UK than actually the US. So yes, there are reasons to be hesitant. There are good reasons to be hesitant looking at history. But I am quite reassured by this process. It's gone through the right stages. There are enough checks. Bill Gates has, absolutely certain Bill Gates has no hand in whatever is going on. There's no G5 or anything being inserted into me. So there are enough checks in the process. I have confidence in the process.
And I just had, I think, Dr. Shangurawa and Dr. Adeboye they've said it all. In terms when we're talking about, this herd immunity, in the spirit of, Ubuntu, Mr. Kabuye, I am because we are, if everyone is getting the same vaccine, white people, Asians, Black, no, it's not a special, type of vaccine kept for Black people or Bame, Bame. It is the same vaccine that everybody, who has got the vaccine so far has got. So, if something is going to affect the way I see it, look, like, also like Dr. Adeboye said, there are valid reasons to be worried, to be scared. All these things, there's no smoke without fire. People have concocted them out of something, they feel. So, but we're all taking the same vaccine. So if something's going to happen to all of us, which I don't believe it would, then, why don't we just all take it? That's my own, the simplified way of looking at it. It's the same vaccine everybody's getting this time. It's not separate ones for different ethnicities. And if everybody doesn't take it, we are not all safe. That's the bottom line. So the more people who don't take it, the more it would affect even the so-called, everybody. We're all just going to be affected. So I think we got to, Mr. Tolashe, you've taken your vaccine, you've got to put your pictures, on social media. You wouldn't know, you're a respected leader, Mr. Kabuye, Dr. Ati. You are the people who are actually changing. Actually, in the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks, it is the community leaders, religious leaders, and people who are actually starting to influence Black people, Bame, ethnic minority, that actually we are taking it to. The Vatican has, sort of sanctioned this. Islamic World Body have sanctioned this in terms of content. So we've got to all take it. There's no it's a no-brainer that until we all accept this vaccine, we're not safe. No one is safe. And we've got to think of the children, we've got to think of the older people, we've got to think of unwell people who would, bear the brunt of this if we don't, act, and we need to act fast. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I've got a question here, but again, I wanted to mention that we've got Professor Edward Kunonga on the call tonight. I don't know whether you are listening or you're there, but I just wanted to ask you particularly, Ms. Professor Kunonga, if you're there, a question regarding the testing, because the reason why there's no trust, the reason why I think people are a bit misgiving in taking the vaccine, that maybe it would be good to know how many Black people were really were involved in the testing process. Probably that can give us a clue. And maybe if they have quite few, probably from your perspective as the professionals, what do you want? How would you encourage us to be part of this? I know Professor and Dr. Sangowa, you alluded to it, but probably we needed to really stress the importance of testing for getting involved in that process. Professor Edward, are you there? Did I catch you?
Yeah, good evening. Sorry, I'm there, but I'm driving, so sorry, I won't be able to contribute much.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. So maybe Dr. Sangowa, you can stress that. I mean, maybe you've got some data with you. How many Black people were involved in testing? And yeah,
when you say testing, that in the trials or in the COVID testing?
Yes, please.
I don't have the exact figures. I mean, in this, because so it wasn't one of the slides. I have to cite for the slide. If you just go on, if I'm able to get that, then I'll be able to give you that.
If we forget UK, there were testing done in places like in South America, which are mostly, ethnically Black communities. So there were testing done in South America. In UK, it might be difficult to get the numbers, but certainly you have all populations in South America where they tested the vaccine before it came into the market.
Can I ask a question whilst you're looking for the data? Could people's refusal to take the vaccine cause problems of mutations?
Mutation in what?
In the virus, we keep having various variants, something like that.
Yes,
so if
is the nature of viruses to mutate. That is the nature of viruses, and that is the nature of a number of organisms to mutate, and that is to evade your immune system. I hope there's no Chinese person on this platform. They can always make a copy of a copy of a copy of anything and sell to you. And the same thing the virus does. It will make a copy of itself in a slightly different way so that it can evade your immune system. That's what it's trying to do. And if we take it back to even antibiotics, that is why we say if you've been given antibiotics to take for 5 days, please complete the dose. Complete the 5 days. Don't take 3 days and then, I feel better now, I'm not going to complete it. Or like we do in Nigeria or Africa, you go and eat in a rubbish place, and you know that you're going to have diarrhea. You take a few antibiotics after it. It's the wrong thing to do, because the bugs get slightly used to low doses of the drugs, and that is why you develop antibiotic resistance. Okay, so that after a while, a drug you spent a lot of money to develop becomes useless because people are not taking the right dosage of the medication. The same thing happens with viruses. Viruses will always mutate. They will always try to change so that they can evade your immune system. But the fortunate thing so far is that the vaccines we have so far have been able to cover even these mutations we're getting. This is another reason why we should get vaccinated, because we do not know what is going to come, particularly in people who do not get vaccinated. The mutation that may come and makes it difficult for the current available vaccines to protect. So I will encourage people to get their vaccine.
Yeah.
Okay. If I can give you some statistics for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine trials in okay, in the US, we had okay, slightly different. We have 9.7% of blacks for the Moderna, about same 9.8 for Pfizer, and the US population on that with the black group is 12.3. Unlike if you look at the white majority population, where the proportion of their population is 73.6, they had 80% participating in the two trials. The Asian 4.4, 4.7, as against about 6% of the population. So, but in terms of, okay, they looked at breaking it down to Hispanic and non-Hispanic, about 20% to 80%. So it's always been, and this paper that reviewed it actually it's always said historically there's always been low vaccination rates, particularly amongst people of color and blacks.
The sites, yeah, your item is ready for collection.
Okay.
Hello?
So if, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Okay, yes. Okay. I don't know if anyone has any question from the platform. Okay, well, let me quickly bring this up. The problem we have in the community is the problem of wrong information. We call it myth on the social media. I think that needs to be sorted out. So I don't know, what are your advice on this issue? Because this is even the major problem that we are facing in our community when people don't get the right information, anything, you know, on social media, because everybody have access to social media. So anybody just thought they can just fly whatever they like on it. And this is really affecting a lot of people negatively. So what do you think we should do to combat this? Because this is really affecting this situation at this period, this issue at this period.
I may just comment. Just like I'm hoping, just like you will not, well, this is an assumption, just like you know what you expose yourself to, you'll not expose yourself to go and pick up pornographic materials to be reading and pollute your minds. You're not, you'll be selective in the things you do. It's the same thing you apply to social media. If you sit around a lot of social media, or spend your time around a lot of social media, you will get corrupted. It's simple. Look for sources that are not corrupted. Well, unfortunately, most Black communities, again, will say, no, I can't trust the BBC. I can't trust government websites. They're doing this, they're doing that. But Dr. Adisa has shown us the vaccine being given to Blacks, to whites, to greens, to Martians is the same vaccine. So if you go to the government website, you will get the truth as to what is in the content, what is being given, and what is going on. But if you spend your time around social media, we got a good example of that on the Nike platform, on Donald Trump and all these things, and all sorts of obscure YouTube sites promoting all sorts of things and all sorts of crazy things. So if you are not mindful and you stray to all sorts of social media, you will get things that wants to fit your views and pollute you and corrupt you. So if you want the truth, stick to websites that gives you the truth. So read BBC, go to the government websites, go to public health, England and things like that. You will get the correct and the right truths. But if you go to some obscure YouTube channels, some obscure WhatsApp groups, you will get all sorts of corruptions.
If I could also add to that, I think that a couple of things, there is no vacuum in nature. So if our timelines are social media, which is here to stay, especially for younger people, there's no way you can avoid social media. It's basically like lifeline for some people, for quite a lot of people, really. So the information will come to us whether we like it. In fact, family members are sending. I remember my dad used to send all this, which was forwarded to him as well. He would just forward it to us. But it's about, re-emphasizing the correct information and flooding the timeline with correct information. So if people are sending information to you that are wrong, you send them information that are right. Keep flooding it. So on platforms that they're always, sending meat, send the correct information. Well, I guess the thing is, how do you identify this correct information, which is what, Dr. Adeboye has said. The government website, for me, it's where I refer to. The NHS website, all of my articles on social media, I reference it, most of it, because it's simplified language and it is true. There's no way the government is going to put incorrect information on its own NHS website. So it's a very good platform to go to. People are doing a lot of awareness things. I've certainly been involved in a lot of, doctors, Nigerian doctors, things like that, doing, African doctors, ethnic minority doctors and health professionals doing all these videos. Send those ones to those people who are always sending you, things are wrong. Just be forwarding it to them, flood those timelines so that with time, incorrect information, well, I generally don't look at those information, but I kind of feel that it's reduced to when all this started a year ago. I think the myths have generally reduced. I believe so. I haven't seen a lot of them like last year. So we generally need to phase that out. I think the other thing I need to say, like Dr. Adeboye alluded to, I think quite a lot of ethnic minority don't watch, things like BBC and government news. That's not a bad thing altogether, as long as whatever they're watching provides that information to them as well. So we should be taking that information to where people are watching. There's some people who will never watch, English channels, whatever. Okay, that's not too bad, as long as they're getting that information in their language or wherever they want to listen to, like the video you did as well in many languages. That's so important. Everybody will find their language to either forward it to someone else, their grandparents, people will watch those things because people that look like them are the ones speaking to them and they can trust them a bit more. And I think that's the kind of assignment I'll hand over to the likes of Dr. Kaboye, Dr. Ati, and Mr. Tolashe, which are already doing. These are some of the things you can propose to the council to fund, let people trust people who look like them more than people, who don't look like them. And it's simple, it is true. So we can, forward those information more and just flood the timelines. I think that's what, I see might also help.
Yeah.
If I can just add, is that from me? Is that
No,
from
continue, sir. Sorry.
No. Okay. I mean, information, I mean, this also stealing from my brothers. There are different types of information. You know, there's a false information that then goes on to a spectrum to intent to harm. So there is the misinformation, which is unintentional. There is the malinformation, which is deliberate publication of private information. And there is the disinformation, which is deliberately manipulated content. So we have those categories, and all these things like my other colleagues have talked about in terms of social media. It flows, it moves very fast. But if one, especially where it pertains to health and things that might impact on people's health, my advice is still try and investigate. If there's anything mentioned about it like that, try and investigate the truth of it. If I borrow from my brother again, we have so many specialists. We all went through education, university education. We spent some 3 years, 4 years, for medicine 5 years, then specialty another 5 years. But we've had Google specialists. And some of us, some of our people tend to believe these Google specialists. And the analogy my brother used was, if you went on to let's say you went on a boarded a plane and the pilot says, I'm pilot this, and I've just learned how to fly by looking through Google, would you continue that journey? So that is a takeaway message.
Thank you. Done.
Sorry, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to come back to your question. How would we myth bust? Yeah. Of course, thank you, Dr. Adebola, when you mentioned about the community engagement. It is very, very important. And I think we are in this, probably in Middlesbrough or in Tayside, we've been lacking a kind of community engagement personnel or a physical space where people can come and get messages, clear messages, to an extent that sometimes they always get, inaccurate messages from social media, from other places. But the fact that we've got Ubuntu, we've got NICOT, we've got other organizations that are coming up, that are being supported by the council, I think it's very, very, very good that we can at least have a central point where we can really drum up the right messages. Of course, we can't pick on everything, but at least there is a certain point where we can pass on the right messages to our people. And I think it's very, very important that we encourage community engagement. We encourage community groups. We encourage community companies to form and be part of the community that they serve, people who look like them. It's very, very important that people listen, get those messages, get that information from a person who really has a lived experience of what they're talking about. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add to that.
Dr. Ati. Hello?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, I just have one question that just slid into my hand now. It's just a quick one. She's asking if you're currently infected with the COVID and you are very, very ill, should you still go straight up and take the vaccine, or do you need to get well first before taking the vaccine?
You need to get well. Most vaccines will not be given to you when you are ill, because when you are ill, your immune system is down. You'll not be able to mount a good immune response to anything. That's why even when you have a fever, they will not vaccinate your child. That's why there are questions, if you're currently pregnant, maybe you shouldn't have the vaccine, things like that. If you're taking chemotherapy, this, that, all the things that affect your immune level, maybe not. So whoever it is needs to get well and almost back to being their normal self or usual self before the vaccine.
Okay, thank you. Somebody just dropped a question, but I think you've actually touched on this when you mentioned Pfizer and so on, but let me ask anyways. He says, this is from Justin. He said, hello, thanks for your contributions. I'm not anti-COVID vaccine, but do we discount the fact that the apathy towards COVID vaccine noticed among Black community is rooted in health policies and clinical experiments that have targeted Black communities?
In the past.
In the past, yeah.
Yeah,
some of us know about Vital's case in Nigeria. Thanks.
Yeah, we've discussed it already. We agreed that part of the mistrust relates to all the past experiences.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, there's another one. Oh, okay, all right, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. So, do we have any questions from anyone? Question? Because this is a serious issue in the community that we really need to find solution. Like Dr. Shonguwawa said that if I know majority of us have been looking forward to go back into our normal lifestyles, but like I said, if all of us don't have this vaccine, it is still not possible for us to go back to our normal lifestyle. So, and I think the best thing for us is to go for this thing. And we have heard from the experts what we, all the wrong information that we've been getting about vaccine. So in case, do we have any question, or we just have to say, call it a day here? Okay, if there are no questions, John, do you want to do the vote of thanks?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, could I just leave? If you don't mind, I'll share my side. As usual, I've borrowed this from my brother in terms of leaving people with this, which is, if I can share that,
okay.
A brain framework. And this, if one just looks through this, so if you look at the brain framework, the B is looking at, benefits. What are the benefits of taking this course of action? And we're talking about the COVID vaccine, the vaccination. We've shown the benefits of the fall in hospitalization and all that, road map to recovery. And what are the risks? If you don't take this, which is almost what Tolashe said just before then, the hopes of getting back to near normal will be quite difficult. And what are the alternatives? There are so many alternatives there that are not proven. From, okay, Dr. Azar answered the question around vitamin D and all that. It does not prevent, and not one individual intervention prevents COVID-19. We've had ivermectin, some of the treatments. We had the hydroxychloroquine at the beginning. We had the ones, was the one that was it in Senegal, which people bought and all that. So alternatives, very limited. And what does our instincts tell us? which is some of the bills. If you look at the bits of that just raised about, okay, what's happened in the past with the things they've done to the blacks. But what we say now is there is enough evidence for us to actually say that this COVID-19 is gone through the process. It's not aimed at any particular group of people. It's universal. Yeah. So it feels right. But is there any benefit, or is there anything that can support do nothing? I don't think do nothing is an option. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending this discussion, this conversation. As a disclaimer, I would say nobody has paid us from the companies that make this vaccine. We just discussing issues, just making you, the viewer, the listeners, make a judgment on your own. We are not forcing you to do it, but we just giving you statistics and facts and all that. So nobody has paid us. Nobody has paid us. That's a disclaimer. But thank you, Dr. Tangwawa. Thank you for your educative information, and it's always a pleasure to listen to you and be with you on such important calls. Of course, thank you, Dr. Adeboye, or can I say Dr. Kayode, whichever way you want, but thank you for telling us, for really giving us the informative insight in what happens, what the virus is all about, what we can do to prevent it, and also thank you, Dr. Adebola Adisa. It's always I always feel happy to listen to you, and thank you for the information you've given us. And yeah, Dr. Ati, co-host, it's always a pleasure to share a platform with you, and I'm really pleased to join this platform as well with Mr. Tolasi, or Mr. Tiff, as we normally call him. Thank you for putting these things together. And as always, Ubuntu Multicultural Center is a new thing, is a new concept, and with an idea to give information to support our community in a non-judgmental way. We don't force people to do things, but we give them information. We advise them to do of what to do in order to be good citizens of this country, in order to develop, in order to improve on their well-being. That's what we do, and that's what we will continue to do. And I think it's very, very good that you people are always there when we call on you to come and share your ideas, your information, your advice. So thank you, viewers, for listening and watching. And probably on this note, I would say, have a good night. See you soon.
Thank you.
Until another time we come your way on community issues and concern, and probably definitely next month we'll be coming your way again. Until another time, thank you. Goodbye for me. Bye. Have a good rest. Bye, everyone.